Okay. Welcome, Pankaj Bhai.
Yeah, good evening, Ruzan. So are we starting at 7?
Yes, sir. We'll be starting in next 2-3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Sorry to be you have to.
No, sir. You are right on time, sir.
Good evening, Pankaj Bhai. Kem cho?
Bas, Maja Kulin, how are you?
Very good.
Good. So, Ruzan, we should listen to younger people more than the people like.
Pankaj Bhai, we'll do that also.
Pankaj Bhai, વધારે stress ના આપી તો.
I'm always there at your rescue. Why are you worried?
No, Pankaj Bhai is rescue for everybody. He's there to help everybody. I know that. Let me start my video.
Hi, everybody.
Kem cho Malti Ben? Okay, hi, Dignesh.
Hi,
So,
Dignesh. Hi.
Little informal time apne kariye. Acha, Jayanti ma'am is also there. Ma'am, are you there, ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
So, okay.
Shall we start?
Ma'am, unmute.
Within a minute.
Pankaj Bhai, we have Pankaj Bhai.
Good evening, Pankaj Bhai. Good evening,
Good
Kulin
evening.
Bhai and Ruzan. Good evening.
So you're in Chennai now?
No, I'm in Apru, Gujarat.
Okay.
Can we have the videos on Vinod Bhai, Omkar, Mansi, Das sir, Shrinesh? Videos कौन कर देगा? Photo ले लेवे. Kulin Bhai, Kulin Bhai. And I think then we start. So, Omi and where is Peter Cook?
Should be on his way.
I'll check.
I think we should start.
Shall we?
Yes, I think we should.
Okay.
I just spoke to Peter. He's just joining, but I think we can start. Ma'am?
Absolutely. We must start.
Yeah, we should be on time.
So I am given the responsibility to anchor the whole proceedings. Thank you very much for that, Ruzan. Good evening to each and everyone over here. Madam, Pankaj Bhai, Kulin Bhai, all alumni members. And it's very nice idea to have, this tuning evening. It's a beautiful title Madam has given. And last time I could not join, but thanks to Jignesh that yesterday I could see the whole recording. And it's so interesting that both the experts, both the achievers, they could really speak a lot about the Gujarati literature. Those who are not knowing me, let me just briefly introduce myself that I am one of the oldest FCO fellow. 1988-89, I was at the University of Manchester. And since then, we started Associate British Scholars. And Lately, it became little inactive, but now with the Chevening scholars, we are now quite active with the leadership of Dr. Jayanti Ravi. So with this brief introduction, I would request Jignesh to just briefly talk about the last session. That was the first episode in our this innovative initiative. So Jignesh,
Perfect. Thank you, Maltiben. I think going by what Kulin Bhai was mentioning, we'll let the youngsters speak. So I am the youngest of the lot in the entire process. Good evening to everybody. Don't go by my hair; it just died. Okay, I am the 2001 batch. We were part of the Young India Broadcast Journalist batch at Cardiff, and otherwise I've been with the media for the longest time, radio primarily, and now have my own startup by the name of tathastolive.com. I'm part of the Chevening group, and I think it's a fantastic group in Ahmedabad. We have very active members. So one of the biggest things we started off, and we want to continue this on a weekly and ideally on a fortnightly basis, is the Chevening evening chats. So last chat we had Sitanshu Pai Yashas Chandra, a very noted poet, in conversation with Kajal Oza Vaidya. The beauty of the conversation was the fact that two generations are actually clashing and defining the present generation. It was an amazing experience where Sitanshu Pai was explaining his interest with literature and during COVID times, and the fact that how writing has evolved, how reading has evolved, how the youngsters are taking to in the next level of content, and how Kajal Oza was defending the fact that present day literature also has its own relevance among the youngsters, even despite the fact that there's a lot of attention span that is missing among the youngsters. There's still a lot of new technology which is aiding a lot of engagement and consumption of content. So I think that is how we realized that we didn't expect it to be so eclectic. The way both the generations were debating, the way they were kind of disagreeing to each other and yet respectfully putting their points forward. It was a beautiful experience. I think literature really brings out the best of people. And today, I think we have a similar format with Pankaj Bhai and Kulin Bhai. We really hope to have a great way forward, and more importantly, expose Peter to some fantastic Gujarati concept of business. And congratulations, everybody. Thank you very much, and really look forward to have a great conversation. Thanks. Yes, I think Ruzan, you want to take over?
No, Malti Ben, I think we lost her. I look up page. I think it got disconnected.
She's just too precious to be lost.
Yes, she's the MC.
Yes, there she is. Yeah.
Now she has to introduce.
Yes,
okay,
of course.
Till she joins, let me do that.
She's joined back, yes. She's joined back.
Otherwise, can I request Jayanti Ravi, the chapter chair of Chevening Alumni Ahmedabad and Rajasthan, to kindly give a welcome speech and tell something about Chevening?
Yeah, I hope I'm audible, Ruzan, and all of you. It's a pleasure absolutely to welcome all of you, and particularly Pankaj Patel, the chairman of Zydus, and of course, somebody who's been spearheading not only work in the pharma sector, which globally also, not only his own entity, but I think taking leadership of bringing all these players together, working in a very harmonious way, and yet ensuring that while competition happens, it's a healthy competition. And I think literally defining how is it that business ought to be done. Extremely happy. And of course, the detailed introduction, we'll wait for Maltiben to do that. Similarly, it was his suggestion also. And I thought he had read my mind, because I've heard Kulin Bhai too speak on a couple of occasions, especially at the CM's residence, etc., and felt extremely articulate. There's so many things that both of you, the idea was we have the achievers like you from different sectors interacting with aspirants who are a part of the Chevening group, and that would inspire a lot of people. So the kind of global leadership that both your companies, both your entities, and not just the entities, but the various institutions that you have built, you've been associated with, I think have done remarkably well, not only in defining standards of offering those services in Gujarat, but I think nationally and globally. So we're very, very happy that this Chevening evening, it's like a fireside chat. And Jignesh Bhai did explain this is the second in the series. And we want to have this possibly happen at least once a fortnight. And there's so many people and so many rich experiences. On this note, again, I welcome both of you and all the participants in today's session. So we're also tweaking the format. We'll have some little time for question and answers. We also have a few from the All India Chevening group also who have joined. We want to welcome all of them as well. And do hope this is also being live streamed. So there'll be many, many others watching us real time, synchronously, and later on asynchronously too. So, and Ruzan has put this whole thing together. So excellent beginning. And over to you. Thank you again. Namaste.
Thank you. Maltivan, idea? Maltivan, have you joined? Hello. Okay. Till that, let me welcome Peter Cook. Hi, Peter. He is the British Deputy High Commissioner.
Hi there, everyone. Good evening. Nice to see you all.
And I'll also like to welcome Ami. Ami is the Political Economical Advisor to British Deputy High Commissioner. Hi, Ami.
She's there. She's there. She's just not unmuted.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ruzan.
We also have Priya. She's the chair of Chevening Alumni India. Hi, Priya. And I think we have a lot of Omkar and Vinod and a lot of them are from Chevening. I think, can we all have our cameras on so that we can take some screenshots?
Hello.
And then we start.
Yes,
Then
everybody is there.
Maltivan will give us a start. Can everybody put on the cameras if possible? Unmesh bhai, Utpal, Rupal, hi Rupal, Manoj bhai, how are you, sir? Omkar, can you do it fast?
એટલે આપણે કરવાનું કીધું
हाँ मेरे को कैमरा चालू करो. Just put your cameras on so that we can have a screenshot and then Maltivan start करावे.
આ જો તમે અહીંયા જો.
Adnan, please take a screenshot. Okay, I think we start. Maltivan, please start.
In between, I just missed because of some problem with the Zoom.
Okay.
Shall
Okay,
I request? Yes.
No, Jayanti ma'am has already given a speech.
Okay,
I've
fine.
introduced everybody. So now you start with Pankaj bhai and the chat.
Okay, I think now Ruzan itself, you can take care of introducing and welcoming both our guests, and then we will join with you. Today, Pankaj Bhai is in the headlines, so I must congratulate first of all to him and his whole company, Zydus. We are very, very proud of the achievement. Recently, I got the opportunity to even talk to Nitin Bhai when he got the AMA award. So that time also we talk about, what is going on. And it's a great achievement, I'm sure. So let me introduce Pankaj Bhai formally, which, this Ruzan has sent me his little brief. Otherwise, it will take long time. Let me just read out. Pankaj Patel, Chairman of Cadila Healthcare. Under his dynamic leadership, Cadila has become a leading global healthcare provider with a robust product pipeline and be a research-based pharmaceutical company. Visibly, in the way he spearheaded India's fight against COVID-19 pandemic. So we are very, very happy to have him today. So Pankaj bhai, welcome. Very young, dynamic, another speaker today is Mr. Shri Kulin Lalbhai, Executive Director, Arvind Limited, the force behind Arvind Group's new digital initiatives and has been instrumental in setting up several new retail concepts. Mr. Lalbhai plays an active role in the overall corporate strategy. So Kulin bhai, welcome to this platform, and we are looking forward to your very, very insightful input to our group. Thank you very much. Now over to Ruzan. What introduction I should give to Ruzan, rather. She is a serial social entrepreneur, but a Chevening scholar of 2001. So welcome, Ruzan, and please now you can.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. The format is something like that we will all chat with each other. We two will chat with each other. We three will chat with each other for the next 30-40 minutes. And then I'm waiting for some questions, tough questions for tough people. And we are going to enjoy this. Fine. So when I was discussing the topic with Jignesh and Jayanti Ravi ma'am, we said that for those businessmen, what is the best topic? And the best topic, according to what is required, is for today's generation also. That nowadays I find the generation, today's young generation, little weak. Sorry, Kulin bhai, but that's a fact. I'm talking of the youth which I deal with. But anyways, so what I wanted that let us have listen to the what we call achievers and the aspires. We all are aspires here. So let us listen to the achievers and get to know that they must have faced difficult times, tough times, And so how they endured that. So that's why Pankaj bhai, we have specially requested you and thank you for being here. So obviously the first question will go to you, and then the achiever will, the aspirant will try to come on that. The first thing I'd like to ask you, Pankaj bhai, is that because I still remember way back in 2010 that at that time I think you were the first in India to start with the swine flu H1N1 vaccine, and we were so proud about it. We are still very proud about it. And now after this 10 years again with COVID, and I'm very proud that Zydus has also, I mean, for the vaccine, and today, as rightly said and has gone through the papers, you also asked for global. To be very honest, I don't understand most of these things, to be very honest, sir, so forgive me for this thing, but I understand that what is the vaccine and how helpful it is. So my question to you is, sir, that how is that journey, and you have seen a lot of ups and downs, so what do you have to say on that to all of us?
So I think everybody has a purpose for which he is born, he is living, and he is going to continue working. And everybody has that purpose for which he keeps on working in his life or her life. So my view, personally, I believe that if you are in a situation like what I am, fortunately, what can I contribute? So one thing, of course, contribute to increase the wealth, which is everybody want to make it happen. And there's nothing wrong about it if it is used correctly and in the benefit of the masses. The second thing which is important is that can you make a difference by whatever you're doing? And there it is important that two things which is important. One is that your means should be clean. That means the values with which your organization working, you should never make a compromise. So that's a very, very important part of thing. If you do this, then it is possible that anything which you desire to do ultimately will get a success. Now, the problem always occurs in any business or any other thing. Whatever you desire every time doesn't happen. But question is, you should have a sustaining power. You should have a determination to continue doing what you feel right things to do. And if you pursue that, finally you can get a success. So I think that is some of the things are very important. One of the important thing is that today's world, money is not a problem, because there is so many ways you can raise money to fulfill your dream. It's the team, it's the people around you which makes actually all the difference. And that's why you need to really nurture your team. Now, one would always say, I know I am Ahmedabad, the graduate should be there, otherwise it is not possible for you to succeed. Manoj bhai, pardon me, I'm saying this, but I'm saying that it's not important that you need to have, I am Ahmedabad graduate. It's important that you have people who are committed to cause, people who want to contribute to that. You can always develop a person through coaching, through mentoring, and also taking external help. But if you believe in your people and if you develop your people, I believe that things what we want to achieve can easily be achieved. The rest is, of course, the other point which I very strongly have been nurturing in our people's mind. Typically, we have a habit. I am number one and you are number two. And I don't think it's important. What is important for all of us is, if my line is 100 meters long, can I make it 100.1? If you are working with that goal, then you will never be dissatisfied. And when you are not dissatisfied, the kind of success, the motivation you will get because of the positivity in you, that yes, I have grown my business. I've grown from 100 to 100.1, which is more important, in my opinion, than becoming number one. And I think that is what I always have followed. And I tell people that, listen, ambition should be there, goal should be there, all is great, but our goal should be what we are and where we want to go, not why Ruzan is running this Vajra force and I am not running the Vajra force. That's not the right way to look at it. It is Ruzan's job to do Vajra force, it is my job to run Zydus. And similarly, if I have a pharmaceutical company competing with me, I would wish them best to grow even better than me. There's nothing. Because in this world, there is an ocean of business opportunities. And none of us can swallow everything. So opportunities are plenty. Markets are large. So I don't think we need to really worry about it. And when you do this, you're not forced to do things which you should not. But when you chase that, then you end up doing something which you should not. And I think that is very important. So આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં વાત કરીએ ને તો સાધનની શુદ્ધિ વગર સક્સેસ ના મળે. એટલે સાધનની શુદ્ધિ એ સૌથી અગત્યની વાત છે અને જે આપણે કરવી જોઈએ. I will end here and over to you, Ruzan.
Yeah, thank you, Pankaj bhai. I mean, a few days back, I was listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer, and you are echoing what he was saying. So I can really connect and relate with all those things that about the competition and how it has to be taken up and how we wish that our competition also grows. And yes, I have also a lot of stories behind how if the market grows, the company grows and blah, blah, but I'm not going to get into that. Coming to Kulin bhai, I mean, the point, very important point which I want to ask you.
Ruzan, a small intervention. Pankaj bhai, request would be when your turn comes again, if we can see you as well. Your camera was possibly, you may like to switch it on, please, when it next time. Over to you, Ruzan. Thank you.
Okay, by the way, I also let me welcome Chevening Alumni. Thank you, sir, for joining us. And today, sir was all in the news for the MSME chair at the Gujarat University. Chevening bhai, welcome. Okay, so coming back to Kulin bhai. Kulin bhai, we know that Arvind is the largest integrated textile company in India and doing lot of things in retail and brick and mortar system. What I heard, what I read that after you joining them, you have planned and thought of lot of changes, especially on the digital, the new age technology. And with now people can also relate with COVID times because now everything gets virtual. So can you give us some idea that what were the challenges which you faced, because being initially a brick and mortar company, what were the challenges with your structure, your board, and what do you plan to do it? And go ahead.
Sure. So Ruzan, when just stepping back, I think when you are looking at building institutions and businesses over long periods of time, it becomes very important to reinvent and constantly change with time. If I look at, I'm the 5th generation entrepreneur in our business. We look at ourselves as trustees, each generation trying to leave behind a good institution. And in Arvind's history, it has been reinvented multiple times. My father has reinvented the company 3 times in his career, and hopefully we can bring about reinvention. So I think the theme of needing to adapt and change is very, very important. And in the old days, businesses needed to adapt and completely change the business model every 20, 30 years. Now, the speed of change has become so fast that if businesses sometimes don't reinvent every 5, 6 years, you will not be relevant. And, we are in the business of selling clothes. And for 200 years, you sold clothes the same way. You opened up a shop and people came and bought it. And now with the smartphone is the shop. So for the first time, we build a different shop for every customer. And at the earlier time, we used to build a shop and the customers used to come. So that is the fundamental nature of the change. It is like the whole business has changed overnight. And we read headlines about all these wonderful startups. And I think India has built some beautiful companies, right? Young people in their 20s and 30s who have built $10 billion companies in 4-5 years. And that takes a lot of hard work to do. And those are brilliant people. But change in a big established company is a very different thing from building a very valuable startup. I'm not saying one is harder than the other, but what is challenging in trying to change large established companies is you have become large and established because you have been very good at doing what you do. And when you try and make a company which is doing something very good, do something different, the question everyone asks is, why do you need to do something different? And that is the nature of why change is so difficult. It is less about technology. It is more about mindset, people, culture, processes. And that's what you have to redo. So what we have been attempting to do is, because the change is so rapid in our business, that rather than trying to change everything at once, we did what startups do. We built a small startup in our own company and we hired youngsters. The first time my father visited our digital startup in the company, everyone was wearing shorts and he came and said, "Ahin bada chaddi you know. So I mean, it's such a different culture from the way you know, our average age is 25 years in our digital company. Our average age is 48 in our textile company. So that's the difference. And then you bring about people, and I completely echo what Pankaj Bhai says. Great companies are just as good as the people. My father's always taught me, always surround yourself by people who are smarter than you. And that's what we try to do when we get into a business, new business, or trying to build new business. We get people together. So what we have tried to do is build all these digital skill sets within our company. Now, luckily, the entire company sees the value, because from almost none of our revenue coming from digital, now 25% of our business is online. And in 5-6 years, it will be possibly 50% of our business being digital. So I think change is a constant. Today, the theme is digitization. Tomorrow, it could be something else, but you have to be ready to try and reinvent. And it's a tough thing. It will be with highs, lows, failures. I think I've failed more than I've succeeded so far in the first innings of my career, but you learn so much from failure. So you have to keep trying and, you know, adapting to change.
Kulin bhai, I know that failure is fertilizer to success. So I think the biggest problem is people here, people everywhere feel ke sabse bada rog kya kahenge log, but you know, the person who does it, he succeeds, and that is the main thing. Pankaj bhai, going little back, because you know, I can relate a lot of things with you, because coming from a business family. Pankaj bhai, I have read what you had, I'd read somewhere that you had mentioned that your father is a very dedicated person, and you learned a lot from him and get motivated and inspired. And I'm sure when you were young, you also used to go to the to your factory as a younger Pankaj bhai of 15 years, age 15. And from that time, sir, what are the things? Because I can relate. As I said, I also used to go with my father, and you know, value is a very important thing in my life, and we have touched those things. So, sir, I would like to know from Pankaj bhai, age 15 to 25, that what were all the challenges which you faced? Not now, at that time, and especially when you're going to the factory and looking at things and seeing how things are happening, and your father is facing challenges. So, what are those things? Can we get some idea about that, sir?
So, Ruzan, I think that these are the best year of our life, isn't it? Because those are the time you are actually focusing on study. You have friends around to play with and spend time with them, and of course you have some burden of examinations and at times and things like that, but more importantly not that. What I used to do at very young age was to basically, you know, my pastime, I used to go there because my factory was not away and I can walk there to reach there, and it was fascinating for me to see how medicines are made. So that was an advantage I had to see, and I developed my more interest, I would say, into pharmaceuticals, because at a younger age I started seeing these and experiencing them. And of course saw people working, my father working, my uncle working. So all of them, I saw them working there, what they were doing. So I think those 25 years was mostly on study, but whenever there was a vacation or time, I used to go there to just understand the process. Some of these were also useful for me when I was studying my education in pharmacy, because that was, but otherwise, I think it's more important, more I would say that the important part was that the way I was seeing the parents working very hard, all that actually gave me a kind of a message very clearly that, you know, you cannot get success without working hard. And I think that has become my almost mantra from since then.
Very good, sir. I mean, I'm sure with such a great learning from your parents, and it has been now imbibed into you. And I'm sure your generation, I think Sharvil, your son, is also following your path. That's great. Kulin bhai, same question, but because I want to understand the generation gap and all that. So same question goes to you again, Kulin bhai of 15 years, at the age of 15. What was it?
So, you know, I have grown up always enamored by what business can do for society. I've seen the institutions the previous generations have been able to build and leave behind. I've seen what my father has created. So I've always, you know, my focus has been, how do I prepare myself and make myself, in a sense, worthy of contributing to the larger cause. So I was always thinking about, how do I prepare myself? And it used to be internships in the companies. When I was young, I was very clear that I want to go abroad to study. So, I worked hard to try and get into a good school. Was lucky to get into Stanford. Then came back, joined another company, a management consulting firm called McKinsey, because I wanted to be outside the business a bit to learn what is business, and not straight away go into the family business. So that again was, in a sense, trying to prepare myself. So in hindsight, I think I was too serious a kid. I was very goal oriented. I had this sheet of all the things I had to try and do to prepare myself, and I was just going through that sheet. But I loved the experiences. I've been very lucky. I've been exposed to some of the best institutions, schools and companies when I was young. And I think all of that went towards helping me in my career so far.
If somebody would ask me that what we used to do when I used to go to my father's factory, I used to say that I didn't learn anything other than showing off that I used to go to my father's factory. Having said that, Pankaj bhai, now I would like to ask you give an honest and a candid reply, sure for that. The time your organization invented swine flu, the first vaccine, and now this time the COVID vaccine. I would like to understand and know that what are the because that's a very challenging thing when you make a vaccine, and it is all to be used for emergency. The data is not much there. So I would like to so it's pretty tough to take decisions, I'm sure for that, because sitting in this place, I understand that there are lives of millions of people involved. So, sir, I would like to understand that when you were launch this vaccine, what are the thought processes? Again, I would like to understand that which makes Pankaj bhai the tough person and who can endure. What are the thought processes which goes in your mind, and what helps you to take those decisions, tough decisions?
So my personal thinking about vaccines are that vaccines have to be safe. The reason why it is that because it is given to healthy people. So it should not create any additional complication suffering for people. That's all. So most important part in any vaccine is safety. The second important factor for vaccine would be it should have efficacy. So it should actually give the desired benefit to people who take a vaccine. And third, which is of course typically for India, that it should be affordable. Because otherwise it's going to be impossible for our people, particularly the people, poor people of our country, may not be able to get vaccine. Of course, fortunately, this time the government has taken the responsibility of providing it free. But I think it's not only one vaccine. One would understand, as we are now learn in COVID time, that there are a number of diseases for which if a vaccine is taken, there is always a benefit. So for example, I think all of you are young people here. So you do not need to have too many vaccines at this age. But some of those people who are crossing 60 now have to think about that pneumonia and is something where a vaccine is taken would definitely save them from a complications, because end of the day is that you might end up spending lakhs of rupees in the hospital rather than preventing yourself. Now, unfortunately, the prevention has never been very well understood and very well done in India. So I think that is what important. Now, I think so that's the basic philosophy with which we always have worked. So I think we were also very clear when we saw the swine flu at that time, we realized that if we don't make, who else is going to make it? The second point would be, if we are going to depend on a foreign country to supply us, they would supply, but we are not sure. So it might be important for us to understand that, well, we should actually try and do it ourselves in India so that our people don't face the challenge. Now, the problem is you need to support your team. It's going to be risky. It can fail. That's okay. But I think you must do an effort to make that happen. And that's what the goal with which I told my team that we should work in. So when swine flu came, I told the team the same thing. This time when this problem started appearing, we also said the same thing, that we must start working on this. And I think that's the main important part. This problem currently what we are facing, and of course I don't want to spend time on that much, but to understand is that it's not over. Everybody knows that it can come back and it could have a problem. Ultimately, we would need a good medicine along with the preventive vaccine to make sure that most of the people are protected, and those unfortunately are not protected would also get a medicine and save lives. I think that's going to be important as a first milestone going forward. Fortunately, we have now a number of options available. All of them work shared here and there in terms of efficacy, etc. But I think that we have now good options available going forward. And I'm sure the next generation vaccine will be the final vaccine, which will ultimately replace all the vaccines which currently are there. And that's what will happen. So again, from my point of view, if you are in a particular business, so for example, and I know Kulin is business is in textiles, but when the COVID came in, they started making what? They started making what is required from a clothing perspective for the COVID time, including antibacterial clothes, including making PPE kits and so on. And I think that is what I think is the way people have to think. If you have a capability and if you can fulfill that, then one should always do it. There are people who may not choose to do this and continue doing what they were doing. Obviously, they will not make progress, because I think there are two ways to grow business. One is, of course, your plan, and based on the plan, you implement and do things. But there are always going to be opportunities sometime. And when the opportunities are there, those who miss the opportunity cannot get it again, because opportunity don't wait for you. And that's why it is important that at that time, if you have capability, you also should do it. And Ruzan, you should make some vitamin C liquid drink for people so that they can also take preventive.
Agreed, sir. I am totally with you. I have a lot of examples in our social sector also. And people who lost their jobs, let's say, just to give it a fast example, that a person who lost his job in the school because the school closed down, but he was sparing the kids. So he starting with this pesticide and cleaning work for COVID and things like that. So I understand, sir. And so that is why we use that the tough people, if they take this challenges head on, they will flourish. Otherwise, those who have not taken this challenge, they have all perished, and we know that. And that's a very unfortunate story also. Kulin bhai, a very important question, now, because what I read in the paper, there's a sort of a big sort of a fight going between the people who with a brick and mortar mindset and having those retail stores and all that, and one with the people, newbies or freshers or startups getting into the e-commerce and tying up with Amazon and selling goods worth lakhs of rupees and all that. So, sir, I want you specially to tell or to talk or to show some idea, give some idea that what can we do, or what can this generation who thinks that okay, brick and mortar is the only solution, and they do not want to up their game and get into e-commerce. Sir, what do you have to say for that?
See, all of these fights, always happen when there is a massive change, and change is messy because change challenges the old order, and there is always resistance to change. But it is very, very simple that the future doesn't belong to bricks, the future doesn't belong to clicks. It is a brick plus click future. And people use all jargons, omni-channel, this, that, but fundamentally consumers will want to consume seamlessly between their mobile phone and the store. And that is what omni-channel is. And anyone trying to just stick to one is not going to work. So you have companies like Amazon, which are buying offline companies because they know that, you need touch and feel. Today, a family wants to go to a mall, go to the food court, buy things and feel good, watch a movie and come home. That human need of contact and experience is never going to go away. At the same time, people just love browsing a catalog online and just shopping whilst they're sitting at home. And that's also a very pleasurable feeling. So the future is clearly going to be an omni-channel future. And both sides are coming together, whether they like it or not. So today, in our company, I mentioned 25% of our sales are online, but even in our stores, 20% of our sales are we actually pack our products and we are delivering from our stores. So the whole world has come together because finally we are there to delight the customer, and the customer doesn't care if it is brick or click. So you as a businessman, you have to do what you have to do to delight the customer, and that is an omni-channel future. So I think all these are territorial fights which you are hearing of. You're hearing the foreigner versus the Indians, the offline versus the online. These are all just transition pains. Finally, it is all going to be omni-channel, and there should never be a color of money. So whoever creates great businesses, wherever the money is from, whether it's foreign or Indian, it should not matter. You should create what is best for the customer.
Super. Now, final question for both of you, and then we'll turn it to the audience. Pankaj bhai, well, we heard of a lot of success stories. Normally success stories are always told, but the failure, and as an entrepreneur, we've all been taught to learn from failures of others also, so we can get success easily. So, Pankaj bhai, can I get to know one thing? Like, I can also give my company's example that at one point of time, I was not able to give salaries to my people, and all those things. So tough people can endure. So, Pankaj bhai, can you throw some light on some tough thing which had happened, or something which had happened, some failure, and then what path you took, what did you do to come out of it? I think that would really inspire all of us.
So, Ruzan, I think what happens is that business is not one product or one thing. There are a number of products, number of different things you do it. And like I'm in pharmaceutical, so we have different kind of businesses involved. And when you do these businesses, at times there are businesses which you will enter, but you find that you're not able to make success. Your ability to come out of that is what very important. Now, people, when I give you my example, we decided that Japan is one of the major market of pharmaceutical and we should enter Japan. And we were the first company to enter Japan, work with the Japanese regulatory agency, got product approval, started selling there. But over a period, we realized that even if we work 10 years in Japan, we will not make meaningful business or money. And we realized that if that is so, we should stop and we should get out of it and not feel shy about it, so that you can do something better. At times, you have to accept failure as a part of the journey and move forward. But rather than clinging to it, kept on for generating losses, funding losses, it's better to get out of it and move forward. So I have number of examples where we have done things, we were not successful, we went out, we came out of it and moved ahead with other things. We continue growing, but I think it's important that at times some things which may not work, though you may have desired to make it happen, it may not work, and I need to be prepared to ultimately do it, because some of the things could be because of not thinking through properly at the start of the business. Some of the things could be not able to execute well. Both are possible. And third is, of course, your bad luck. But any one of that, ultimately you should accept it. And I am very happy to accept that I have failed here, I've failed here, I've failed here. Because I think, I've got out of that business, and that's not never a problem for me. And I'm even willing to even do that in future as well. If things doesn't work out, stop it, do something else. There are a lot of things to do, but don't keep on chasing a ghost. That's the way I would say.
Super, sir. I totally agree with you, because otherwise people get so much attached to their product or their idea or their concept that they forget everything, and they are not able to even accept that this is not working. But that's a very good point and good learning. Kulin bhai, same question for you, because this is always my favorite topic to talk about, and you yourself in fact mentioned that you have faced more failures, and that's good, sir, because that leads you to success. So, sir, can you also give some idea or some example about that?
No, so, when I started out at Arvind, my father has always told me and my brother Puneet that to get a sense of being what it takes to be a businessman, you have to create something, and, you have to build it out from scratch. So both of us started our careers at Arvind doing new business. Yes, adjacencies of our existing business, but new business. And new business is what, many people call 0 to 1. So creating something to a small viable stage is very different from 1 to 100, which is expanding something that works. And generally 0 to 1 has a high mortality, because in a sense it is a little bit like a startup. And when I just come into Arvind, there were so many ideas, so much energy, that there were so many 0 to 1s I did together. I mean, if I could go back and tell myself that this is a marathon, not a race, I would have told myself. But there was a time where there were one too many things, and when you do that, you don't give each thing its due. So I had to shutter a couple of the startups which I started. And it's a very difficult feeling, because you get so attached to an idea and you always feel you can make it work. And knowing when to stop investing emotionally, financially behind something is very, very critical. You have to learn to cut your losses. The smartest people who are entrepreneurs who do 0 to 1, there is this concept called minimum viable product, that you try and spend as little resources to prove a concept. And once you prove it, you scale it. It's a very powerful concept. And it's very tough to do, because, you just keep trying to put that little extra, hoping that you will get the product market fit. And that is the tough thing, when to step back and be mature and say, no, this is not the direction to head down, and to take that. And I think I'm still on that journey. My father always tells me, you get too emotional and attached to business, and it's a tough thing to not do. And I think that's something you have to learn, because it's completely okay to fail. In fact, one should fail fast and not fail at the same thing. That's the only important thing. If you fail slow and you repeatedly make the same mistakes, then you go extinct. Otherwise, if you don't try things on new things, and you don't fail, and you don't fail smart, you won't even evolve or create the next big thing. You'll just keep doing the safe game, and then there will be no innovation. But it's a very tough thing to not take failure at heart, to have the emotional strength to accept it. And what I've seen is, at the time of failure, you think the world has ended. In 6 months, you realize, acha hi hua, it's good. You should have perhaps shuttered it sooner rather than later. But these are learnings, and takes a lot. You need much more wisdom to get that balance right.
Good. I can relate to a lot of your dialogue. Okay, so now I think I've spoken enough. Now I would request, we have a lot of Chevening alumni here, and I would request, can we have your videos on, please? So that I would request, please ask your questions, because the Pankaj Bhai, Kulin Bhai, they were very enthusiastic, and they told me, hey, we will also want to ask. I said, sure, you will have the floor. And I think we started Peter, because he has his hand up. So Peter, can you start?
Thank you. And first of all, can I say thank you, Ruzan? This has been a wonderful session. I've been thrilled. I've been making notes in the chat a little bit about some of the observations. And I do recall Kulin Lalbhai very kindly telling me almost a year or even perhaps longer ago, making that point about failing fast, that it was okay to fail as long as you fail fast and move on quickly to the next challenge, because businesses needed to experiment, and they are never going to get it right all the time. There is always that element. Thomas Edison and the 99 ways not to make a light bulb are a very important aspect, I think, of modern business. And I was touched also by what Pankaj was sharing about his early experiences. And reflecting, I've just had a long conference this week, 4 days of a long conference with London, talking about how we as a foreign ministry need to react to the circumstances the new COVID world has presented. And the messages that came very strongly from London, from around the world, is to adapt, to be agile, to be ambitious and energetic. And it struck me how important that is, I think, not just for foreign diplomats, but for anyone who is looking at the world. Because as Kulin Lalbhai said, the speed of change is relentless, and that what you learn today is no longer relevant tomorrow. And if you try old habits and old practices, I hope there are still 1 or 2 old habits we can keep. But I suspect the world is moving on so fast. We have to change and move as quickly as possible. I'd like to turn all of that observation, as fascinating it is, but I do have a question. And my question, I think, is what would be the one piece of advice they would give a young person today that they would that would encourage them to see a path forward in the future, whether it is moving into a biotech or moving into pharma. Delighted that there are UK companies looking at investing in Gujarat in that space. So I'm delighted that we've got opportunities happening there. But also, I think in the textile world, and I know the ambition and drive behind Arvind to adapt, adjust, to bring in new technologies, and particularly clean technologies. So I'm interested a little bit to see what advice would they give to people who are moving into their industry, into their sectors these days. Thank you.
Kulin, it's for you.
So I thought Pankaj Bhai would start, but happy to start. I think as far as the textile manufacturing is concerned, I think this is a very interesting time for India, because the world is looking away from China. And this is the time for us to try and step up and shine. And if I would touch upon the areas which are very interesting, which are white spaces, one is this whole world of functional clothing and synthetics. Because India has been very strong in the whole cotton value chain, but the world is now wearing synthetics, because with synthetic clothing, you can put intelligence into the clothing, you can bring functionality, and that is the future. And another very exciting area is technical textiles, which is using the textile process, but for very different things. So Arvind today produces fabrics that go into windmill blades. We produce medical textiles like PPEs and N95s. We produce textiles that go into composite structures. They go into metro carriages. So these are some of the new age pieces of textiles. I think India has enough and more people doing the old world textiles. I think there's a lot of cool opportunity in new world. And I think when it comes to the brand side of things, the whole world has become so exciting, because anyone can today build a brand. Earlier, you needed money to open shops, assets, and create scale. Today, there is a software called Shopify. Anyone sitting here can start a shop tomorrow, and you can just upload your products and sell. So, entrepreneurs have been given a level playing field to create products just for the digital world. And then the world is your marketplace. So you will see so many amazing entrepreneurs bring new, vibrant, niche brands. And world over, this trend is happening. Rather than very large mass, everyone wearing the same thing, you can start selling small, niche, cool things and create your own tribe of customers. So I think it's a great set of opportunities unleashed by innovation and digital. So good time to be an entrepreneur. At the same time, all the same rules apply. Create a great team, work together, don't get disheartened. It's a marathon, not a race. So all those things everyone would have to keep in mind in this new world as well.
Pankaj.
So Ruzan, I will take it from where Kulin started. That there is an opportunity in healthcare area because of the fact that the world is looking away from China to source whatever is required. Of course, every country thinks that they should make everything themselves, but it's practically not possible that everybody can do everything. So finally, there is going to be kind of a like-minded countries and will work together to make sure that there is supply security as far as healthcare is concerned. And that opens up many, many opportunities for people who are thinking about getting into healthcare. So I think one simple thing would be that are there some technology development you can do it with the help of either your own capability or maybe working with some of the research labs, universities to develop products which could basically give you opportunity to get into a segment of pharmaceuticals or related things. One of the biggest unmet need or one of the biggest opportunity which is currently existing is in the area of medical devices. And there are medical devices start not only from a needle or a syringe, but all the way to very sophisticated equipment like MRI and PET scan and whatnot. So given that there is so many opportunities, people who might have engineering background can look into that and get into that. Now, when new products come in, they need a lot of testing as far as healthcare is concerned. And unfortunately, people are very willing to criticize rather than doing it, because when we had a problem about ventilators, the earlier time when there were no ventilator available, people used to make a ventilator with hand. And there was a ball which somebody was continuously pressing to push air. Now, only using that concept, some people developed quickly something which could help at least temporarily when the ventilators were not available. But we all misunderstood that. So I think that's where the challenge is there. But I think going forward, there is going to be so much of opportunity to do things. And I think because of the advancement of technology within India, also capability in IT area, software area, and also in the area of hardware as well now, it should be possible that people can also look at not just pure drugs, but also the other areas. So the opportunities are plenty. And finally, there is plethora of unmet medical need. There are so many medical problems for which we have nothing. And there is good opportunity to do incremental innovation and come out with innovative products to come into it. The biggest challenge here is access to market. And pharmaceutical does not have as much of luxury of getting good Shopify and sell product. But at the same time, the OTC range can be sold through that, because then it becomes different. Because so the way the structure today is, there are opportunities. People can think of doing it. Only thing is, it takes time to build, because typically when I decide to do a business or file a product to a country, it's a cycle of 3 to 5 years before my product is getting approved. And that kind of sustaining power is required to get into that. But opportunities can be many, and people should look at. Even service provider to healthcare industry is a big thing, which can be also an opportunity to think about. So I think plenty of opportunity going forward. Healthcare is one area where opportunities are going to be even much more. And that's why it is going to be important that those who are aspiring to get into somewhere related to healthcare, they should actually look at serious thought to it, that there's so many things they can do and develop a very helpful business for the people, but at the same time, successful themselves.
Great, sir. And just to put a point across, I remember it is very important that your communication strategy, where you currently use the word for that example with that ventilator and that ambu bag. So I think the communication all went wrong. So that is important that the companies should take care of that. Shantanu wants to ask something. Can we hear from you, Shantanu? And you can have your video on, please, Shantanu.
Good evening, Ruzan, and good evening, Pankaj Bhai. Good evening, Kulinji, and again, thanks to Ruzan for organizing this session, and which was very insightful. Pankaj Bhai, Kulin Bhai, I just would like to ask two questions. One, I'd like to ask, with COVID actually setting in, there has been work from home practice actually being instituted by various companies. I just want to ask, how do you feel actually with growing kind of work from home work setting, whether it is going to affect mentally actually the employees, and how the productivity would be affected, if you feel like? Second question was, Pankaj Bhai and Kulin Bhai, that there is now a mad rush for actually young students to opt for careers in computer engineering, and everybody feels artificial intelligence, IoT, those are the most actually hyping actually kind of career paths. How do you, what messages do you have for young students who want to kind of embrace actually fields in, say, pharmacy or textile engineering?
Please, sir.
On the first one, I think this has been really very difficult for organizations, especially the second wave. I remember in April, we have 65,000 people who work. We are very labor intense organizations. So the kind of angst we went to support our entire family of employees through COVID too was, it's left a lot of scars in everyone's head. And finally, whilst we have all adapted and in many ways we are more efficient on Zoom for certain parts of the business and management, I think nothing supplants in the long term the ability of being together and what that does to relationships, interactions, and all the softer things of what creates culture. So I think in the short term, we have adapted, but in the long term, there will be a move back to a lot of the conventional physical way of operating. If at best, it will be a hybrid model. I don't see it being as digital as it is today. So I think we are possibly overdoing the whole thing that companies will go completely digital and it's going to be all work from home. I don't see that. There could be some functions which could be more hybrid than others, but you need the physical bit to come back. And I'm sure when life will become normal, that human resilience is there, people will bounce back and go back to the old ways. On the career prospects of, I personally believe you cannot choose your career based on fads. If you go, one way to think is, yes, there is a lot of opportunity, but if you just rush where everyone else is rushing, how are you going to be different, right? Finally, you have to do what you have to marry who you are and what things come naturally to you to what you end up doing. So I won't specifically go after textile engineering as a vocation. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff you can do as an engineer, across whether it is textile or mechanical or any kind of engineering. But my general observation is that, you don't become a machine learning specialist just because machine learning is the in thing. If it speaks to you, definitely do it, but not because everyone tells you that's the only job out there.
Okay, so I think to add to what Kulin has said, the work from home, which of course has been forced upon us, actually has also taught us some new things. First time we are finding that we have too much of time than what we are finding difficult. So sometimes people say, no, the socializing is important. Also talking something other than the work helps to develop good teams and good environment, etc. But we realize that we can plan better and do much more than what we used to do before. So that's one thing which we have learned good. But I think then going forward, I think as Kulin was saying rightly, it's going to be a hybrid model. So plants, we have no option but to have people there because we have to produce. And there is no. So, but I think what will happen is that in offices in particular, some of these work from home kind of a thing could be possible going forward to some extent. But ultimately, it's something like 3 days at office and 2 days at home, or 2 days in office and 3 days in home. What will happen in the process is that your overheads will come down. That's what will ultimately happen, which will actually improve the efficiency of any organization. So that's what I see. So I think going forward, that is the way we are all going to work. Of course, the digital use have to be understood and taught to people, because I think some of the etiquettes in work from home becomes very, very important. You might have seen some of the videos of some of the people moving around where they were not properly dressed up and on the video. So I think those are the things which also have to be taught to people if you are going to continue work from home method. Apart from that, there should not be more than X number of people on a call. There should be a time limit to which the call should not exceed beyond that. All these are going to be very important, and coming on time and getting out on time will be very important, because I think this has all been taught to us now, that respect for everybody's time has gone up because of the digital use more and more. As far as the people selection of a particular course, I think that depends on the desire of a person, what really he wants to do in his life. Over a period, we have created this silos of pharmaceutical, biotechnology, or textile, or engineering, or something else. We created these silos. I think overall learning is more important. At the graduation level, apart from specialization, other learning are equally important. And we fed in our education system, today we are missing that. A person who is a very good engineer can also play a good piano. And he can be also a good singer, or he could be a good artist. But opportunities are not there that they can also develop those skills along with that. Actually, that will improve them as an individual much more than what will happen. So I think one side, of course, it is important that one has to go to a particular line to find what is the opportunity or what his or her ambitions are there. But it's also important at the same time that the basic study curriculums in India has to undergo change so that people are able to do much more than just a specialization.
I just wanted to add one thing to what Pankaj Bhai was saying. I think the world has become such that being hyper specialized is no longer sufficient. There's this very interesting thing that the people who create most value in now moving forward are people who can take two worlds and bring them together. And they are called polymaths. You know, we call Elon Musk a polymath because he takes two very different things, brings them together, and then you create an Elon Musk. So I think in the future, knowing a few things reasonably well is going to be more important than knowing one thing extremely well.
Okay, that's good. Sounds good. Malti-Ben, so yeah, thanks Shantanu. Malti-Ben and Vinod Bhai, there are two questions, I believe. Anybody else, please? Otherwise, I think these are the last two questions. Malti-Ben.
Okay, very quick question in reference to what Pankaj Bhai told about. My question is, what kind of collaborations between the universities or the academics with the industries? Because it's very important. The industry's demand is different, and the people who are getting graduated, they are trained very differently because of the maybe old syllabus. So now what kind of collaborations? Just now I heard about, Chevening Bhai became the MSME chair at the Gujarat University. So I believe that even while we were working together with Dr. Ravi, when she was with the higher education, Udisha, and what Pankaj Bhai told is very, very important. The person who is having the specialization is not enough nowadays, because you need to have soft skills, you need to have that kind of, the personality which has, a lot of other, the hobbies. That is very important for anybody. Gujarat is like full of, the enterprising, spirited people. But when they are going to the university and the certain kind of, the course is specialization. So what kind of industries input to the university system so that you can get the appropriate workforce? This is my question to both of you, please.
Kulin, I will take a question. So in fact, we have been trying very hard to work with the people who are responsible for education to make sure that going forward, how do you really, so I think there is nothing wrong with the curriculum, what we have. Maybe you can tweak a little bit or add something more into that. I think the exposure to the teacher, to the industrial environment and their teaching methodology are the area where we are lacking. If that is done, then things will be much better than what is happening today. But there is a challenge there, because it's easier to say, but when you go around and try to do it, it's very difficult to find people coming forward and saying, okay, we want to go and spend a month in a factory to learn what is happening there and then use that in teaching. That's where we find a difficulty. And so I think, but that's the only way we can improve. If we improve the teaching methodology and teachers' capability and their interaction with the real world, would definitely help that the students will have better learning capabilities.
I'm not an expert in education, but just from my personal experience, when I was at Stanford, one of the things that I saw, which was very different from what is in this part of the world, is the interface between industry and higher learning. I'm talking more the university level, on collaboration, R&D, incubating ideas, startups. And whilst we have some of the best management institutes in India, the IIMs, etc., I think we still, that interface between industry and higher learning in India is way less developed than in the West. And if you get that right, the kind of new ideas, new energy that gets unleashed is phenomenal. So I'm sure it's a matter of time. It will happen with our higher learning schools as well. But that would be a great thing to unleash in India, getting the whole research and industry piece together.
Multiple, I will add one point here. As a Chief General Manager HR in Bank of Baroda, what we used to do, because what you say, the gap between employment and employability. Okay, so what we used to do, used to go to the college and the school of class 12 students, and we used to share our the successful entrepreneurs. We used to take them and tell the student at the class 12 that these are the people who have started from the small and today big, to give some vision. Because even for employment, what is important is the person should have an entrepreneurship. I have seen the managers, they can be managers, but unless he has something to do extra, he cannot give, real good for the company. So most important, I feel, the person should be an entrepreneur, even if he is in a job. And that is a part of education system, because we ultimately create a very rotten system. He will just do one area, and what Mr. Pankaj has told very correctly, that, unless, it can be a good computer, this engineer can be a good musician also. But then where is the scope? Once you got a degree, you become this thing. I can share, Mr. Pankaj, by in 2010, I invited you in Bank of Baroda Journal office. You address our executive. And that time you said my vision is 5,000 crore business. But he added one thing, this 5,000 crore should be quality. That was a big message for me. And I added one more thing after, I become a Chief General Manager HR, quality, number, and also happy staff. Then it is sustainable.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Vinod ji, can we hear? Actually, sorry, I forgot to tell you people to introduce yourself. Vinod, if you can introduce yourself and then ask the question. And I think that seems the last. If anybody else is there, please tell me.
My request would be not to break the flow of the discussion with my introduction. I have something of an opportunity to talk to a fifth generation entrepreneur and a second generation entrepreneur who has successfully handed over the baton to the third generation. And I would take this opportunity even to confront you, if you so desire, you being a third generation, or I believe entrepreneur, to also respond to this query. This would build on what Kulin was saying and what Mr. Das shared. One was with regard to the interface between industry and the education system, and the second was to expose our kids to the entrepreneurial vision. And this is something in which I have a request. It is more in a form of a request than a query to Pankaj Bhai. Why do I not get to read the story of Raman Bhai and Mr. Modi, the success that you have built from 95, seeing a split, taking your company public, finding your feet in perhaps the most regulated industry in the world, beating them in quality, beating them in its cost. But where is your biography? Where is the biography of Raman Bhai? Where is the biography of the Lalbhai? Where is the success story of Rasna? Why my kid is not able to read this? Why has she got to look to Steve Jobs' biography to get inspired? Why should the Musk biography be available to me in Amazon, but not the Lalbhai biography? Kindly do request your parents. Raman Bhai is no longer with us, but Pankaj Bhai, you have so much of wisdom to share. You owe it to us. You owe it to the aspirants. You owe it to my kids to inspire them. Kindly take time. If you do not have time to write an autobiography, do have a biographer with you. You owe it to us. That would be my request.
Absolutely right, Mr.
And one more, kindly permit me, the Indian managerial thought is completely lacking. There is a Gujarati way of doing business. I come from the Hindi belt. Ahmedabad is a city that is a city by choice. And it is not my city by choice because I happen to be posted here as a civil servant. It is a city by choice because there is so much to learn from Gujarat for the rest of India. The way धंधों का आपने अपने बेटे को दिया, आपने अपने पिताजी से लिया, बाकियों से भी बांटिए. There is so much of managerial wisdom in this land. Where is that story? kindly take it as a personal request. Do not write an autobiography. And I am not asking you to retire. Certainly, kindly don't take it. But have a biographer. Document every challenge that you face. How you face the challenge of COVID is a story worth knowing for every child in this country. Please take it as a sincere request. And for the two youngsters, take it as a request to your parents.
Yes, Pankaj bhai.
So, Vinodji, I think I know that the people who have made success, their life stories are very important. We had a very strong belief, and I may be absolutely wrong, but we believe that number of biographies of number of people are available. But where did they end up? They end up at Pastiwala. This is what usually we see. So we realize as a family that it may not be a great idea to publish a biography because many people may not be interested. So what we did was, my father did write his biography. We printed only 5 copies, and that's with me. That's all. But I think you have given me a thought to think about. I have not written my biography, and I don't know whether I'll write or not, but I think I will take your suggestion and think about it. But I think now that digital world is there, maybe digitally it is available free to anybody who want to refer to. Might be a better idea going forward, because given that that will be available to everybody, people don't have to spend money. If they want to use it, you want to have it, they can have it online and read it. If they don't want to read it, it will still remain there. It's not going to go waste. So I think that opportunity exists now with the new digital world. So that's why I'm thinking, yes, I should do it. For your information, what I did was, for my employees to get motivation from what my father did, I created a museum, which is basically based on his biography. And that tells about his life, what are the things he has done. So we selected few incidents in his life, which basically made what he was. And I think that is what ultimately the employees go, when they join, they go and see it through a digital media and understand the philosophy of the founder of the company. So I think something which we are doing, but it's only very limited audience at this moment. I will take your suggestion forward.
Thank you, sir. Kulin bhai.
No, I mean, it's a very interesting and relevant suggestion. I've also seen that. I've just learned so much from people with wisdom, and I've been lucky to have access to those people. I remember right after I came back to India, I came to Pankaj bhai and I said, I want 1 hour of yours. I'm just going to ask you questions. And I still remember a lot of wonderful insights. And after that, I've seen that hearing from people, their lives, is nothing more powerful. And the good part is that I'm seeing more and more of this video interviews of such interesting people in the world. So I am an avid reader and I'm into podcasts and videos and all of these things. And you get the deepest thoughts of some of the best people in the whole world, and even our entrepreneurs in these mediums. So I'm an optimist that because of the digital world, a lot more of what Vinodji is talking, the inner thinking and thoughts of some of the brightest minds in India are going to be available to everybody. And one should be doing more of that. I mean, one should be sharing all of this with the world.
Okay, I think anybody else? Anybody would like Rupal, Mansi? Okay, nobody. Fine. Thank you very much. Let me first clarify one thing, that this idea of running this evening series is of Jayanti Ravi ma'am, our chapter chair. So the first thanks goes to her. So yeah, I'm just doing what she tells me to do. So that goes to her. And I think now, if there are no questions, and thank you, sir, at least from my side. Thank you, Pankaj bhai and Kulin bhai. And now I'll ask Malti Ben to please take it up and start the next point.
Thank you very much, Ruzan, for very well coordinated talk, and both the guests, they really spoke and give a lot of insight. I would request Mr. Peter to give the vote of thanks. He is Deputy High Commissioner, everybody knows, no need to give his introduction. But yesterday I learned from, this Calcutta-born British and he is very proud of being India born. Peter, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for being so nice to our Bengali boy. I'm grateful to you. Please, I have had a most wonderful evening listening to two highly successful people, their own spirit of entrepreneurship, their own education, the understanding they have shared with us tonight has been a wonderful insight in breaking down some of the very simple aspects of what are the truisms, what are the perils of wisdom that we can take and pass on to the next generation. And certainly for Pankaj Bhai and also for Kulin Bhai, both have been very generous with their time. They've been very gracious to give us their wisdom. I have taken away a lot. I've been tweeting, I've been putting messages in the chat. I've been sharing a little bit of the experience of listening. You could sit at the feet of these wiser souls and just listen to what they have learned. And if either of them ever publish a book, it will be a very quick, there'll be a long queue at the bookshop, but I will be at the front of it because I've learned so much. Thank you so much for all of their support. Thank you to the audience for joining us. I know some are listening online, live. Some are joining us on the actual Zoom call, so we can have that interaction. Wonderful. This series is growing in interest, growing in its reach, growing in the kind of range of topics that we're happy to discuss, and we look forward to doing more of these in the future. Thank you so much from my side, from the British government side, from my own team. Delighted to be part of this, delighted to join in, and I'm sure there's great things that can flow from conversations like this. Not least, more exchanges, more ideas, more thoughts that connect our two peoples. So wonderful. Thank you so much to everyone for this evening. It's been a really pleasant experience.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was
Thanks, Ruzan. Thanks, Kulin Bhai.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ami.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye, Mansi, Devendra, Ayush. Ayush, where are Ayush? Kya kho gaye, bhai? Ayush, you just came in, I think so. Ayush, hi, Ayush. Devendra, you have to start your camera, bhai.
He must have been completely overwhelmed with the whole thing.
Rajesh, Dr. Rajesh, sir, कैसे हैं आप? Sir, how are you?
देव भाई आ गया, देव भाई अपने ओरिजिनल अहमदाबादी।
कैमरा तो ऑन करके हेलो तो कर लो भाई लोग। एटलीस्ट इस तरह हम आपको देखें, आयुष, देवेंद्र, ये चालू करके कहीं और नहीं लगता है।
Devendra, haven't met you for a very long time. We at least need to see you virtually.
I know. You can't be as handsome as I am, but show the full face. It's okay.
And Ayush, where are you? चालू तो करो कैमरा। नहीं करेंगे।
No problem.
No problem.
चलो ठीक है, but thanks a lot for taking
Thank you again.
your time.
Thank you again.
And ma'am,
Thank you
very much.
both.
And I think everybody is good. अब next की तैयारी करनी है भाई लोग। चलो, we'll catch up tomorrow. Bye. Thanks, Balti.
See ya. Bye bye.